Yeah, hello everyone, I'm Mia with the blogging portal and I'll be sort of facilitating this panel. Blogging portal is pleased to have you here and we look forward to sort of a lively debate. Without sort of further ado, let me introduce the panelists. We have Persson from Open Europe. We have J Clive Matthews from Nosemonkey, Guido Fawkes, and then from the Economist, David Rennie. And David Rennie needs to leave about 20 past 2, so we're trying to keep it sort of 40 minutes for the panel, and then maybe a really short Q&A in the beginning so that you can answer perhaps 1 or 2 questions from the audience, and then we'll have 45 minutes for the rest of the panel to ask questions. And I would like to start off so that each of the panelists will give sort of a short introduction about themselves and maybe answer sort of a brief overall question about what do you think of the EU coverage in the British media. And if we could keep these sort of speeches to about 2 minutes each, so we can get a sort of debate going. And Mats, if you would like to start.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Yes.
Right. Okay, Mats Persson, Open Europe. Some people call us a think tank. Other people call us a Eurosceptic campaign group. Still others call us various other names. But we come from this. We come from a point of view that we think that the European Union needs to be reformed. So you will. There will be no surprise to hear me argue that I think that the British coverage, the British media coverage of the European Union, very much reflects some of the problems that the EU is facing. And it's not so much that it's sort of reinforcing British Euroscepticism as much as reflecting something that is fundamentally wrong with the European Union itself. And until we see some solutions to the kind of problems that the EU is experiencing, then I think the somewhat critical coverage of the European Union in this country will continue. Of course, we can discuss the various aspects of this, but I will say one thing. To believe that it is somehow only in the UK that the media is now becoming increasingly critical to the way the European Union is conducting its business is a misunderstanding. If you have not yet done so, I would strongly encourage you to sign up to our daily press summary, which we produce daily, where we take a sample of the coverage from across Europe on the European Union. And it's quite clear from scanning the press on a daily basis in various different languages that you know, the criticism and the criticism of the European Union is becoming increasingly prevalent in an increasing number of countries. And again, it's not because the media is particularly has an inherent interest in being critical of the European Union. It's because simply the EU needs reform. And now I see the 2 minute sign. So I will say, you know, all media in all countries have their issues, have their own quirks and peculiarities, and the UK is no different. But the problem starts with the source. Thank you.
J Clive Matthews, otherwise known as Nosemonkey. I guess I'm probably one of the longest running bloggers on EU affairs these days, because I started back in 2003 or so, and then probably about 2004. So yeah, my basic take on the media angle is actually surprisingly similar. Although I'd go a little bit further and say the criticism is largely due to a complete misunderstanding of what the EU is in all media, because it's so complicated that nobody can understand it, least of all some hack journalist who's got a deadline to meet at 4 o'clock. And you're constantly talking about the EU, everyone's constantly talking about the EU as if it's one monolithic organisation, and they don't understand the complexities of it. They don't understand the different directorates general and the different institutions and the agencies and God knows what. They don't understand how they all fit together. They don't understand how the national governments fit into the picture. And so they try and simplify it in language that they can understand as journalists and that their readers can understand, which is largely putting it in some kind of binary division, which is why you've got this thing in the British press that you're either a Europhile or you're a Eurosceptic, which is a completely artificial construct, because I still don't think I've ever met a Europhile. I mean, there's probably one in this building somewhere, but I've never met 27 countries with God knows how many different languages, with umpteen different departments in every country, all contributing to EU law. I mean, you've got the Commission with all these Brussels bureaucrats supposedly screwing us over and taking our money. The Commission employs something like 35,000 people. It's tiny. So most of the EU law comes from the national governments, the national civil services, but nobody seems to get this. And it's an incredibly complicated thing to try and explain to anybody. It's an incredibly complicated thing to understand. You can't possibly get it across in one short article. And that's where the press's problem stems from, because their readers don't know, they don't know, and it's impossible to do.
Right, thank you. And then Guido Fawkes.
Hi, my name's Paul Staines. I do the Guido Fawkes blog. I think it's fair to say I am on the implacable Eurosceptic side of the argument. I think the EU gets a very easy ride in the media. It's a very boring issue for most people. They're not interested. They perceive it's over there in Brussels. They assume it's corrupt. They assume it's full of waste. And it's very difficult to get those stories out because it's not really news. MEPs, of course, they are living expenses. The subsidy regimes are incredibly wasteful, but it's all technical, very dull. And I know Jack over there has farm subsidy law. He has a lot of difficulty getting his stories out unless he's attaches it to some kind of celebrity or a MEP who's on the receiving end of farm subsidies and stuff like that. So all the complaints about Eurosceptic British press and media giving the EU a hard ride, making up stories about strengthening cucumbers, that's a side issue. The fact is that the EU gets away with murder because